prepping for preseason action or just continuing along with kind of training camp?
Continuing on with training camp, I think tightening up a little of the things we had, in our scrimmage, making sure we're taking care of the basketball, hitting home on the details of what we need to do defensively, some cleanup. We do a lot of station work where our coaches do a lot of teaching in small groups, so these guys are getting a lot of the lessons early.
What are you hoping to see in the first preseason game?
Us take care of the basketball. I think that's going to be the one thing that we look at, just making sure these guys are finding that rhythm, that continuity with one another. But again, just getting out there on the floor and being able to play, a 48-minute game.
Can you take a preseason game? I mean, I know it is what it is, and you're more focused on yourself. But can you take a preseason game as something of a measuring stick of where you guys are at, or what you guys need to keep working on when you get back on the practice court?
Well, I think it's another, an extension of training camp. So all those things that we looked at during our scrimmage, now you get to do it against an opponent. So I think you grab what you can from that. Again, it's like trying to figure out what we do well, and if teams take that away, how do we get better at it, or how do we need to adjust? So I think it's a great area for us to be able to measure things.
When it comes to like your rookies, what are you at least hoping to see or expecting from them come this preseason and tomorrow?
Well, just being able to see their growth. They're comfortable in practices as best as they can be. Getting that learning curve down, both first defensively, understanding positions and on the floor, the things that they're asked to do with their assignments, but then the offensive flow. How can they gain and help grow that continuity with the team just as fast?
Now going into your third year coaching Franz, what would you say is the most underrated aspect of his game at this point?
I would think for Franz, because he does so many things well, I would look at, I think his passing. I think his ability to find and make the right read, especially in his attacks to the rim, being able to find that late pass. I think he's done a great job of that as he's continued to grow.
Having a more healthy group heading into this preseason compared to previous years, how much of a difference does that make where it gives you that chance to evaluate these guys?
Well, we keep going back to it, being able to have the same group back, obviously adding Joe and Jet and AB, but the continuity, just being able to have a group that's healthy on the floor together, they can find the rhythm. Today's practice was about that, about them taking ownership of the calls on the floor, the defensive coverages, the ability to hold each other accountable in those areas. I think that's the great part about guys being healthy, because they're all feeling that as they're gaining more and more rhythm.
Do you feel like there's a level of nerves, jitters, excitement just on this day before you see this team play another team for the first time this season?
I hope so. You want that. You want there to be nerves. I mean, that means you care. You want to be able to go up against a different opponent as you've been going against each other for the past 7 days. I just really think that these guys are excited to go out and play, and we've talked about that being the identity of our group, being able to compete, being able to, double down and detail our work, but then that other side of it is the joy and enthusiasm for the game that you want to play.
I know every team is different, and there's always different, even with the same guys, you're going to be different dynamics. But is there something specific that feels different about this group and the way they've approached this training camp as opposed to the previous 2 years? Is there something that kind of stands out from this first week?
What I would say more than anything, other than healthy, because now we're able to find that continuity, I think there is a heightened level of maturity. Again, the experience is different, right? Like our age says one thing, but then the experience of last year was another piece, but now they're able to do it all together. So there's a level of growth that each one of these guys is recognizing, and how they have to come to the table with a little bit more maturity to how we're approaching it.
Jamal, in terms of your rotations that are coming up through the season, when do you start really formulating that? Is that from day one, what you see, or even before, what you see on paper, or does that build as you get closer and closer to starting day?
I think it builds closer and closer as we're going to start. I think it's going to be a little bit fluid, just because we have so many different guys that can play multiple positions, and we're trying to get a feel and read for what each one of them does. But I think that's going to take time, and these guys recognize that's what it's going to be. And we've talked about it doing by committee, and that's going to be the case this year as well, because we have a lot of capable guys on this team that are able to do a lot of things.
As a coaching staff, are y'all looking to maybe identify some obstacles before you go into these games, or are you looking at these games as kind of a way to set that baseline and then maybe be reactive in teaching those trouble spots in going in the future?
Well, the great part about the game of basketball, it's always going to provide an obstacle no matter what happens. Whether that, obviously health being one of them. Teams will do different coverages. You're going to see different things that you may not have seen during practice because you're working on your own schemes. But I think the great part about this group and their ability to have matured over the years that they can take the obstacles and adversity and bounce back and keep moving forward.
Very good. All right.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you all. Thank you all.
Safe travel. Thank you. Appreciate it.